Today I'm going to make a 6-pane window. This is a commission piece someone asked me to do, and it's going to have sand, seashells, and lots of ocean colors on the pigment. I start by cleaning the windows with alcohol and then using the blow dryer to take away any debris that might have settled. Next, I'm going to be very intentional about going over each pane with the hot glue gun to seal every seam. I learned the hard way that you want to make sure every seam on a window is sealed, because that resin will seep through any crack that's left. And my workstation was a mess when I did not do that one time. So now I make sure that every single seam is covered well. You can see that I have a black line running along the window, and I do that to lay out the line of the shoreline. I use a Sharpie on the back of the window and lay out the design I want, so that now I can start laying out my seashells the way I want them before I put the resin and sand on the window. This way I have a clear image of what I want before I'm in a position that the resin might be starting to dry or get tacky and not hold the shells as well. Once I finish the layout, I'm going to take pictures of my project so that once I get the sand put down, I can recreate it with no problem. Right there, I'm turning one of the larger shells upside down and putting some pearls in it. That's a signature thing I like to do, is always put some pearls in one of the seashells as an added little treasure. Once I've got my photographs, I'm going to put each section in a different container and start mixing up my resin with the sand. I will tell you that I only use ProGlas 1000 crystal clear tabletop resin from Fiberglass Warehouse. This is my go-to resin for everything I do. I can't recommend it highly enough. It has a good work time. It stays crystal clear over the long haul. It dries rock hard. And I've used other resins. Once I started using ProGlas 1000, I never went back to anything else. I highly recommend you check it out on Fiberglass Warehouse. I mixed up 24 ounces of resin, and I did end up using all of it. I mixed it into 12-ounce batches, and I ended up using about a canister and a half of sand. I like to use the coarse sand for these ocean windows. I like the effect with the bigger shells that I use. I use kind of a sugar sand on smaller projects, but for these big windows, I really like the coarse sand. I mix it up to about the consistency of thick oatmeal. I don't want this to run once I lay it down in the shape that I've got laid out. And if you mix it too thin, it will do that. And then it's like trying to herd a cat. You just can't get the resin to go back once it starts running. Once you mix up resin and sand, you're going to have a tremendous amount of bubbles. So you usually have to torch several times to get the bubbles out, because that sand will just turn white almost. But once you hit it with the torch, then it goes back like it should be. So I've got my iPad right next to me. I'm checking each window pane for how I had the shells laid out like I want them. I always use the bigger shells and the more 3D effect in that lower left window pane. It's kind of the anchor spot, and then I go lighter as I move across and up. Once I get everything in place like I want it, I just go back and I tap down every single shell to make sure that it's well seated in the resin, because once that resin dries, those shells aren't going to go anywhere. Finally, I sprinkle the smaller shells and the crushed abalone to fill in, and my last step on this part of the project is to intentionally place some tiny starfish where I think they need to be, just to give it a little effect. So for this window, I am using Mermaid Trash Sea Turtle and the Nerdy Birdie Iridescent Blue and Caribbean. I really like this color combination for my ocean windows, and I think they're both of these companies, the Nerdy Birdie, and that's Shop the Nerdy Birdie on Etsy, and Mermaid Trash, and she has her own website. I think their pigments are vibrant and a high quality, and that's pretty much all I use. So once I get all of the color in the pattern that I want, I'm going to use Mermaid Trash Lace in a smaller amount of resin to create the wave effect. And I'm going to lay that white right along the shoreline, and then at the break in each color, and then up near the top of each. I'm going to torch it to thin it out a little bit, and then hit it with the heat gun to start the movement. I'm going to go back and do a thicker line along the seashore, and then I'm going to use a toothpick and just put thin lines all along the sand and the shells to give it the look of bubbly water that has stayed up on the shoreline. I just keep moving the white until it's where I want it to be, and my last step is to lay down 3 little sea turtles in 3 different panes. I cover their back legs with a little resin to give them that look of being underwater. Pull away any of the little pieces of dust that may have fallen in the project and give it a final torch. And here is the finished product.